Two areas that I'd like to look at is your homeless strategy as well as also affordability and childcare.
Yes.
So you've made homelessness one of the central promises of your administration, and with the city approaching, I think it's like 200,000 in expenditures for this. Do you believe Denver taxpayers have got their money's worth out of your efforts for homeless?
We do, overwhelmingly so, and I think the evidence is clear on the streets of the city, and it's clear in the data we're tracking. I mean, people sometimes forget, if you go back to where we were 3 years ago, we had 1,000 tents in downtown Denver. We had large encampments in major neighborhoods. We had people that couldn't get into post offices or hospitals because the encampments were so large that people couldn't enter buildings. And so those are all gone. We don't have any encampments left. We've moved 9,000 people off the street. That's all made a huge difference. There's more work to do for sure. We're not at all done. There is no mission accomplished banner here. We got more work to do. But I think to know that, yes, there's a recent Economist article you saw on this, 64% drop in street homelessness is the largest in any city. Denver, I think, can be a model for what's possible here. And we got more work to do. What we know is we have still about 500 people that are on the streets. And those folks tend to be the highest need individuals that are left. They are really chronic mental illness, really chronic addiction needs. And so we have a whole new set of programs to focus on those folks. But we think that the encampments are gone, that 9,000 people are off the street, that 8,000 are into permanent housing. That's all real progress. And we're going to spend about as much now year over year on services as we did 5 years ago, with very little results to show for it 5 years ago. So we think that's all good use of taxpayer money to deliver outcomes.
Gotcha. So your administration has kind of taken a lot of criticism from different directions about the cost, the price tag of this program. Is there any part of that spending that you regret?
No, I think what we knew was we first had to build infrastructure to be able to put people into housing. The reason why people were stuck sweeping encampments for years is if you have no place for someone to go, all you do is move them from one block to the next. That didn't work. It's expensive, ineffective. So we used the federal ARPA dollars to bring on these hotels and tiny home villages. Those were one-time capital costs. And now we've been able to do year-to-year support for services that are at or lower per person cost than they were 3 or 4 years ago. And so we knew we had to make that investment. We made it, and now the services, I think, are working. And what we know is it's much more efficient and effective to provide someone job training or housing services in an existing hotel room where you can find them than it is to try to chase them all around the streets and connect them to addiction treatment or mental health support or job training.
Right, I understand. So no regrets, not a single contract, not a single hotel purchase, not a single...
I think there are always things we can do better and would have done better. I think we made changes in providers at certain hotels. You saw that. We feel very good about Urban Alchemy as the new provider at the DoubleTree. I think they're doing a great job creating a real culture of accountability there. So all 100 things that are places to improve. But in terms of would we have not spent the dollars we spent to acquire the units, get people off the street, or put them into services? No, we would do that. But we should always strive to deliver better services more efficiently, and that's what we're focused on now.
And again, just one more quick question about the price tag. Would you still make the same spending decisions that you made knowing the price tag that we know now?
On homelessness? Oh yeah, I think if you said, would we make the investment to deliver the largest reduction in street homelessness of any city in American history? Yes, we would do that. That's what we signed up to do. That's what we got elected to do. That's the results we're delivering. And I would focus on that now. What we are doing is spending less per person now than we had spent before. So the question is, how many folks can you serve? How well can you serve them? We're focused more on outcomes now than on inputs. Not how much money do you spend, but what results do you get for it? And so for us, the question is, do they get up and out into a permanent housing unit where they're paying their own rent? And I think one of the data points people don't see a lot is that the fact that we moved 9,000 people off the street, but almost 8,000 of them into permanent housing, means 8 out of 9 people that are coming into our system are moving on successfully to a permanent unit. That's an important statistic for us.
Understand, thank you. Let's talk about downtown. I think one of your favorite topics.
Yes.
So do you still believe that downtown Denver can make a comeback?
Oh, we do believe it can make a comeback. We believe it is making a comeback, and I think the data supports that. We've seen huge and historic drops in crime in downtown. We've seen obviously major drops in homelessness, but we've also seen more retail and commercial activity. We've seen now about 61, I think, new businesses that have opened there over the last year. If you walk 16th, I was there today, it feels very different than it did a year or 2 or 3 years ago. We see a lot more leasing interest. We see folks buying and converting buildings. And so we think that there is a real moment where Denver is on the comeback. And right now, this is what you see. When you hit a trough, that's a chance for people to invest and to grow. And we think we had a lot of folks that bought when the prices were cheap, and I think that's going to be great for them.
Oh, great, thank you. So, I want to talk about downtown office vacancies. So again, you know, they've been pretty high. So is the old downtown model, which is really office workers, five days a week, lunch crowds, happy hours, convention, is that gone for good?
I think it's changed. I do think the old model that you just come downtown from 9 to 5, or you just come downtown for a Nuggets game, is not the model we want. We want a model where downtown is a real neighborhood, which means there are a lot of folks who live here permanently, you know, and who go out to get their coffee and their dry cleaning in downtown. And yes, we still want tons of convention business. Yes, we want tourists and visitors. Yes, we want folks who come from Littleton to work here for the day and stay for a drink after work. And so we want to do both, and that's why we focused on that. Office vacancy can seem like an overwhelming number, but when you break it down into our strategies on how to approach that, 7 million square feet of empty office space. Now we're going to push 3 to 4 million of that to become apartments, to convert them into residential. Now you're talking about only about 3 million left to fill for office. That's a much more manageable number where we have, I think, increasing demand.
Okay, great. I think you answered my next question, which was about the downtown model versus a new model. So you're pushing tools like the DDA investment and discounted parking, some other things. Some critics say that downtown's problems are bigger than just parking. Their safety, their cleanliness, the office spaces we talked about, and high cost. Are you thinking too small?
Well, that would seem to surprise. I did nothing on crime or safety or homelessness in downtown the last 3 years. It was all we did first. And so I think there's an order of operations. The first thing was homelessness. People said 3 years ago, you can't do anything downtown until all the tents are gone. Great, we got all the tents done. And people said, can't do more in downtown until it feels safer. Great, we created a downtown Denver police unit just focused on downtown. We got officers on horseback, on bike, on motorcycle, on foot. And we've seen crime go way down in Denver. So that's checked. Now the challenge is what to do to bring more people back to the office and more people back to downtown. One of those obstacles is more places to live. That's why we use the DDA to build more apartments. That's why we created a $40 million incentive fund to attract businesses who want to move to downtown that we announced last week. And it's why, yes, we want to make it a lot easier for folks to say, do I want to go eat in downtown or do I want to go eat in Lowry? Well, if I know I can park easily downtown for $5, that is a difference maker. And so I think when we look at the 30,000 people who came downtown to watch the World Cup versus going to a bar in their neighborhood, that's because it's easier to get downtown. So I think it's all of the above. It's definitely homelessness and crime and office work and incentives and easy parking.
What is the one downtown block or area that you could point to that is kind of proof that your strategy is working?
I think there are a couple of places where, and you can actually see it on my wall here, where we've mapped out places where we have areas of focus on 16th Street. I think there are 4 I would talk about. Union Station is working well right now, active and thriving. Larimer Square, working well. The biggest one is Skyline Park. If you've been down for the World Cup or others, you've seen, and that's still half of it under construction, where we're building out the beer garden. But Skyline Park is now a great destination activation. People come and eat at a food truck or watch a game or hang out and have a drink. And then Glenarm Plaza, also right in front of the pavilions, which is now pedestrian street. It's open container. You can sit outside and have a drink or go to a store or a restaurant. Those are places that are coming back, and the foot traffic supports it. We're at 99% of foot traffic that we were at pre-COVID. I think that's a real sign that folks are returning. Not enough yet, but it's a great progress.
Oh, thank you. So we realize that Denver itself is bigger than its downtown, but it's also kind of the face of the city. So I believe the Wall Street Journal has called at one time Denver the emptiest downtown in America. Those words, not mine. So it is kind of an issue. So what exactly is the city's real estate strategy? And I'm talking about, like, now the city owns the Denver Post building, the pavilions, and there was a former Motel 6 building that was supposed to be made into a shelter, and I know that that hasn't occurred yet. So what's the strategy? What's the
Yeah,
plan?
so there are a couple parts of the strategy. One is we want to work to be able to fill those office spaces that are downtown, which is why we have an explicit goal to fill 3 million square feet this year, of which we're more than halfway there. The other is we have invested in key assets that are anchors to the city. Denver Pavilions has been an anchor to downtown for a long period of time. We don't want to see that go broke or go under or get turned into a bunch of 7-Elevens because an out-of-state investor doesn't care about what the experience of the 16th Street is. So that's why we've invested. Denver Post, we needed office space downtown. We need and we think there is a real opportunity to lease that to other partners. We have a number of very exciting businesses interested in that spot already. So our goal is to both remake the lived experience of upper downtown specifically. If you think about lower downtown, it's actually moving much, much better. You think about Union Station, Milk Market, Larimer, a number of those places that are actually picking up steam quite well. We need some of those places in upper downtown. The pavilions can help be the anchor for one of those places. The Denver Post and the Civic Center Park area that we're redeveloping now will be another anchor and entrance to downtown. So our strategy is both get more people living downtown with residential units, create really great spaces people want to go to that are anchors across the 16th Street area, and then make sure we can shore up some of those places that are on the brink by making sure we determine what goes there and what stays there.
Okay. Thank you.
course.
So we're moving on from that to affordability. So your administration has kind of loosened, if you will, the permitting rules to speed up construction, to get things moving, producing more units, but that doesn't always necessarily guarantee that working families can afford them. So my question is what evidence do you have that these changes that you've made within the city and county of Denver will actually lower housing costs rather than simply propel developers to build more units that maybe Denver families can't afford?
I think our focus is always on showing the results that make a difference in the evidence, and the evidence here is pretty clear. The data is now that the Denver metro area has one of the largest drops in rental prices over the last year. It's about a 14% drop for renters in terms of prices stabilizing and dropping, and that's because of two things. One is we've added a lot more supply. That's been a part of our strategy. And to your point, we've also added what we would call deed-restricted supply, which is units that are designed to be affordable and stay affordable. So you don't have to pay more than 30% of what you make to rent. And so we've added about 8,000 to 10,000 units over the past 3 years that have become affordable. So we're both working on both making permitting faster and easier. It used to take 3 years. It's now about 180 days. That makes it easier to build. And then we're bringing on units that are specifically affordable so people can make sure that they don't have to get priced out.
So childcare. So you ended last year's State of the City address with a promise that every working parent would be able to access childcare. Yet this year's stated goal talked about the city developing this framework, but didn't really necessarily have a specific number. So I'm curious about with childcare costing Denver families close to, I think, $20,000 annually. How many new positions or seats will your policies around childcare create? And how much money, city money, are you willing to commit?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing is to focus on what are the biggest cost drivers that families are facing in Denver? What are the things that are making it hard to live in Denver? And the biggest one by far is the cost of housing, which is why to our previous conversation, you focus so much on dropping that cost. The other major ones are childcare. If you have young kids, that's as you said. But if you have both a rent to pay and childcare to pay, you might spend 60% or 70% of your total income just on those two bills. It's very hard to make it. So that's our next priority area of focus. We're focused on trying to reduce the cost of utilities, which are also a big cost for people. And so we're working on a future deal with Excel that will help try to manage those costs long term. And we're focused on the cost of transit, which is also can be how you get to work, how you get parking can be part of that, whether you use light rail is a part of that. And so that's all part of the portfolio for us, but we will focus on what we want to do is build a system that makes childcare accessible and affordable and easy to find. And so what happens is that's not done one seat at a time or one provider at a time. We've done a good job in the city with the Denver preschool program, which does this for 4-year-olds and 3-year-olds. It's a one-stop shop that everyone can find access to care, and you pay different amounts based on how much you make. So we think there are good templates for that, but we think we have to really focus on infants and toddlers, which are 0, 1, and 2-year-olds. And so we want to talk about how we work to build a system that will work for Denver residents, because we know people have different needs based on whatever their family or job situation is. We want to build a flexible, accessible, affordable system, and that's what we'll talk about this week in the State of the City.
So speaking of the state of city, so a lot has happened in the city of Denver since that's last State of the City address. What, if you need to, go ahead.
No, I'm okay. I may have to jump in just a few
No,
minutes to
and
check in on my daughter.
last question. So my question is essentially, what are Denverites going to hear this year?
Sorry, we know, I'm coming, thanks.
Sorry.
It's okay.
What are Denverites going to hear this year in this year's address that you couldn't necessarily predict for this year or for last year? What's going to be different?
Oh, it'll be different. I think the areas there's a lot of things that remain the same. People want us to not lose focus on. So we're not going to stop focusing on public safety. We're not going to stop focusing on homelessness. We're not going to stop focusing on affordability and housing. We'll talk more about those things, in fact. But there are some things that have been in development that will need to expand significantly. And one of those I think that we'll talk about will be childcare. We'll talk about more work around housing and housing affordability, because I think those are places where we've made progress, but more still to do. And so I think those are all things that will be, and on economic development and job growth. What are the ways that we're going to help drive job growth and economic development in the years to come? Okay,
perfect. One last bonus question.
Yes.
So are you planning on running for re-election? And if so, what are the central priorities of your second term campaign?
I am planning on running for re-election, and when I announce my re-elect, I will share all those
Okay.
good visions for
All
Troop
right.
2.
Fair enough. Fair enough.